Hello. Welcome to Heart with Saima, Building Wealth. So, this is our third show of this new podcast, which I have started, which is called Building Wealth. And I'm bringing in seasoned real estate veterans from different aspects of real estate who I hope will teach us how to become wealthy and to build wealth. So, my guest here today is Dan Lewkowicz, and he is going to be, he's a seasoned real estate veteran with over 15 years of experience in many different aspects of real estate industry. Starting his career in house hacking, he quickly moved on to flip homes in and around Metro Detroit, and eventually created a company called Renaissance Real Estate Ventures, which specializes in the acquisition, financing, renovation, and resale of single family residential properties in the booming city of Detroit, Michigan. So before joining Encore Real Estate Investment Services, Dan was a senior advisor at Fortis Net Lease, specializing in commercial real estate investment sales. He's also a former business development executive for Amazon in Detroit, Michigan. Currently, Dan is a senior director at Encore Real Estate Investment Services and specializes in shopping centers, medical office buildings, industrial fulfillment centers, quick service restaurants, and automotive repair and parts stores, and other net leased assets. Dan has five lovely children and resides in Birmingham, Michigan with his wife Brady, and enjoys running, lifting weights, yoga, playing acoustic guitar, and racing. So without waiting anymore, let me bring him on. Hey, Dan, good afternoon to you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on here. I appreciate it.
We actually connected through LinkedIn a few years back, and you had your own podcast at that time, and you were building your own network as well as net worth. And share a little bit about yourself. Tell me, what are you up to these days?
Yes, I'm Dan Lewkowicz. I'm Senior Director here at Encore Real Estate Investment Services. As you mentioned, I sell net leased assets all over the country. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much, what I do. That's what I'm up to these days. Real busy brokering a lot of deals and doing investments. And yeah, just real happy to be in the spot that I'm in.
Fabulous. So then the show is about, like I said, I just launched it recently. And previously, I'd been doing something different. And because my background is all about real estate, and my, I've been doing real estate for, it will be 19 years. And I'm based here in the Dallas area. And we are actually focusing a whole lot on real estate development projects here. So, if I remember correctly, last time when we spoke, and it's been some time, you were involved in investing in the Dallas area as well.
I mean, I have some partners that are in Texas, but I personally have not done any, real estate investment in Dallas or in the Texas market. I just sold a Burger King in Midland, Texas, but I myself personally have not done any real estate investment there.
Okay. So, what you are primarily in the Detroit area?
I mean, I live in the Detroit area, but we sell property all across the country. Last year, we sold 320 properties in 43 states. So we work all over the country.
So you've done work in 43 states, but you haven't been to Texas as yet, and maybe.
No, I guess what I'm saying is, as a brokerage, last year in 2022, we sold property in 43 different states. I mean, I've sold property in Texas. I myself, as like a principal, have not invested in any real estate in the state of Texas.
Okay. So based on your experience, tell us, the show is all about building wealth. So tell me, If you have someone coming to you and they tell you that, hey, we have $200,000 to invest, or let's increase that number, actually, let's make it 500,000, because then when you're looking at it from a 20% perspective, that's around 2 to 2.5 million dollar asset. So what advice would you give them? Where should they
Yeah.
start?
So in terms of invest, like what to invest in, is that what you're asking?
Where to invest, if it's if it's someone who's a beginner, if it's someone who is a novice, because a lot of I have different kinds of people who listen to the show. So we
Yeah.
have people who are coming through LinkedIn and they're more seasoned, but then we have people, we are streaming live on Facebook as well, and we have a whole lot of people who come through Facebook, and they actually are people who do have money. They just haven't really invested in real estate as such. So how why not educate these people and tell them what the best way is to get started if they have that kind of money sitting on hand?
Yeah, well, I know what. First, I would say what I would do with it. I would take that $500,000. I would go out and hunt for a vacant fast food property. I would
Okay.
link up with a local. I mean, I'm telling all the secrets here. I would link up with a local real estate leasing broker who knows the market better than anyone. I would have them help me find a national credit tenant to lease the property. I'd then take that $500,000. I'd use it as a down payment for two things. One would be the purchase.
Oh, okay. So I think we lost Dan, and we will wait for him to come back. Um, so when it comes to real estate and when it comes to building wealth, there are just so many. Dan, I was just sharing with people while we were waiting on you, that when it comes to comes to building wealth, right? There are so many different aspects of real estate to build wealth. And it's when they say that 90% of people become wealthy by investing in real estate, that's just no joke, because that is exactly how it is. It's the power of investing in land. And like they say, they're just not making it anymore. So Dan, I will let you resume.
Yeah, sorry about that. Not sure what happened there, but so what I would do is, like I said, the $500,000 would go to two things. Number one, it would go to the purchase of the property. But in all likelihood, if I'm going to sign a lease with a national tenant, they're going to want what's called a tenant improvement allowance. They're going to want a certain number of dollars to help renovate the property to make it fitting for whatever their concept is. So, for example, maybe we're buying an old Wendy's building that has a drive-through, and maybe we've got a contract with some major, Caribou Coffee or something. They're going to want to spend a decent amount of money retrofitting that building. So, in many cases, the tenant will actually request the money up front, but in some cases, they'll say, you know what, we're going to agree on an allowance. Let's call it 800 grand, and we, the tenant, are going to do those renovations, and then afterwards, once the renovations are done, you're going to reimburse us. That's best for the landlord, because the landlord doesn't have to borrow that money up front. So essentially, you're getting a loan from a lender for the purchase of the property. And then at a certain point, when those renovations are done, you're going to borrow, probably more realistically. I know you said 80%, but more realistically today, you're going to borrow 70 to 75%. So let's call it 75%. So that 500 grand will allow you to buy the building. Let's say it's $1 million, and put in, let's say, $800,000. After fees and commissions and all this other jazz, you're close to $2 million.
Mhm.
There you go. There's 75% loan to value. And now you've got a property that you can flip for probably 2.5 to 2.8 million. Or if you want, you can cash flow it, at a really nice rental rate, which would be great. Now, that's what I would do. That's a little bit more experienced and hands-on. If depending on the actual investor, I would advise them, depending on their exact needs. If they were like a low risk, hands-off investor, I'd say take that $500,000, use it as a down payment for one of your more typical triple net or double net deals. That's going to yield you like a 7.5% return, so that you can have some positive cash on cash return based on today's lending environment. If you wanted something a little bit more hands-on and higher return, I would say buy yourself a $2 million shopping center at like around an 8 cap, 8.5 cap maybe, and cash flow it that way. But keep in mind, you're going to need a management company to help you manage the center. But yeah, those are the different things that I would do or that I would advise others to do.
What's the so Dan, when you got started, where did you start?
So when I got started, I started by buying my first home. About, gosh, at this point, maybe 12 years ago. In the middle of the last recession, I had the opportunity to buy a house that was move-in ready, but I found something a couple blocks over that was bank owned that needed a ton of work for a third of the price. So I bought that house. I contracted out each and every individual trade, and I watched them, and I learned, and I asked questions. And then I started flipping houses. I bought another house, another house, another house. And my entrance into real estate was really hands-on through house flipping. And after flipping probably 75 or 80 houses, I got into commercial real estate brokerage.
So I do have a lot of youngsters in their 20s and 30s who do listen to the show as well. So I know that game plan might not be the most feasible game plan for seasoned. Well, no, that's not the correct word. For people who are in their 50s, 60s, 70s, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
Unless that is the route they would like to take. So I have, my 18-year-old daughter. I'm trying to get my 18 and 22-year-old daughters involved in real estate with me. And I was telling my 18-year-old that, you know what, come on in and let's flip homes. I will guide you. I will help you get
Mm-hmm.
into flipping homes. I will help put it all together for you so that it's an opportunity for you to and learn exactly how the process is. And I feel that when you start at such a young age, right, you're able to, just like you did 12 years ago, get that hands-on experience and to understand the process and the paperwork and the dynamics of buying
Yeah.
off-market property, right? I think that's a great way to get involved in real estate.
Yeah, 100%. What I did was called house hacking, because I went and bought a property with a conventional mortgage at a very low rate, and I renovated the property, not myself, but I contracted it all out. And then at the end of the day, I held the property for more than 2 years, which is important because currently the statute allows that if you hold a property for 2 out of 5 years, it can be qualified as your primary residence so long as you don't have any other primary residence. And at that point, when you sell it, you pay zero taxes on the gains. So for me, that was incredible because, I bought that house for $81,000. I probably put in like 60. So I was in for, $141,000. And I ended up refinancing out of it, but essentially when I got divorced. But that property was transacted at over $190,000. And it's funny because the property today is probably worth 300 because prices have gone up. But the point is there's a lot of equity there. The next property I did that with was my next home. That one I bought for $75,101. I put in probably 50, and I sold it for, I believe, 265. Again, more than 2 years later, no gains. Went into my next house. Next house, same thing. I'm currently living there now. Don't have any plans to flip it, but if I do, it's the same thing. So house hacking is great because you already need somewhere to live. You can qualify for conventional financing, and you can get rates and terms that are better than you would if you were an investor.
The reason, Dan, I was asking you these questions, right, and the reason that I took you back to where you started and the leaps and bounds and where you are today. I just want listeners to understand that there is just no one way to
Right.
becoming wealthy through real estate. There are
No doubt.
so many different ways to do it. There are so exactly what you did. You went through conventional mortgage, but if someone doesn't have that money for down payment, there's creative financing that can be
Yeah.
done as well. You can go out and you can borrow money from hard money lenders as well. I mean,
I didn't mention in that deal that because I bought it from a bank at $81,000, I was only able to borrow, like, I think I borrowed 70 or 80% of the value, I'm sorry, of the purchase price, not the value, because the traditional mortgage products require you to season a home at least 6 months before they give you a value based on, before the loan is based on the value as opposed to the purchase price. My purchase price is artificially low. I bought it below market. It was bank owned. It was distressed, but I needed to come up with a lot of money to renovate the property and for the down payment. I was a young guy, had a couple kids, and it wasn't established yet. So I did exactly what you're talking about. I went to one of my family friends who herself was a realtor and a real estate investor, and I got a private mortgage, for that additional amount. That enabled me. Actually, no, I take that back. I believe the bank. No, I'm wrong about that. The bank wanted me to. I think, what was the situation when I bought it from the bank? They didn't want to go through a lender. They wanted cash only offer. But I didn't. That's what it was. I didn't have the $81,000. However, because it was a good deal, when I went to the realtor / family friend / investor, she was able to give me a private mortgage that helped me bridge the gap until I was able to refinance.
So basically, that's, we're talking about so much creativity, right?
Yes.
So it's all doable. You just have to have, and I mean, the amount of responsibility that you probably had on your shoulders. You're young, you have two kids,
Yeah.
you are getting into real estate investment, and you're probably scared. You're like, oh my God, I'm about to do this. I'm borrowing this money from hard money lenders. All these things that I'm doing right now, in retrospect, when you think back and you reflect back, and you're like, oh my gosh, how far I have come and all the chances I took and the risks I took. But I think real estate is one of those things which lets you do things like that, because I think real estate is probably that only asset which is where you jump in and you invest. And yes, things do go wrong, but real estate will always appreciate over time, right?
Yeah, over time. It's like the stock market, but it's a lot better than the stock market. And I'm thinking about what you're saying. Like, I look back, when I look at the deals that I did in the beginning and the level of risk I took, it's incredible. It's night and day. Today, I'm able to hone in and underwrite a deal and analyze a deal, and I'm getting in based on the fundamentals and based on the technical analysis of the deal. And those were just skills that's just something that, after flipping 75, 80 houses and selling a few $100 million of commercial real estate, that's what you get. The benefit of real estate, I think, and this is true, I think, of no other field, is that you can tap into that knowledge, right? If you've got a deal and you reach out to someone like us, we can help you, right? We can give you our expertise. We can put our eyes on it. And real estate is majorly an abundance-based business where people want to help each other. And if I help you, it's only going to help me in the long run. So, like, you can tap into that knowledge. Like, I wish I had somebody that had done 80 homes and sold hundreds of millions of dollars of commercial real estate when I was doing those deals, because I would have looked at them a lot differently than I did at the time.
And I think this is the brilliance of real estate, that there are all these different levels and all these different phases and all these different aspects to real estate, where you are able to get involved in real estate on different levels, doing different things, um, which is this is kind of like a segue into, so we talked about flipping. We talk about where, even if you don't have money, you're still able to get money through private money lenders. And there are so many ways to be creative financing, where you're able to look into subtos. You're able to try to go in and assume the loans, and you're able to, there's just so many different creative ways to get involved, depending on your comfort level, depending on what phase of life you're at. And which takes us into the what you just mentioned, that at this stage, when you look at opportunities which come your way, And you already mentioned that your focus is you're looking at a lot of shut down restaurants. You're looking at places where you're able to go in and you're able to then, and this is actually something that my first guest who came on my show, Dan, um, Sharif Madawar, he is someone I recently met in Puerto Rico, and he came on, and that is exactly when I was with this group of people in Puerto Rico, and he took us around, and he had been doing so much investing um, in Puerto Rico, and he was showing us that this is exactly how he did it. What you just mentioned, he would go in, he would see that, okay, you know what, this is a building up for sale. Um, and the thing and then he would start making calls to all these different high end companies that here's this place, here's what it will take, and he would find someone who was willing to sign a LOI to come in there, and he would bring in all these high end brand names to so just it's just such a fascinating world of real estate investment.
Oh, absolutely, and it's endless. I mean, as you alluded to before, the many different options that you have when it comes to investing in real estate, they're almost unlimited. And what's great is that there's every single deal has a solution to it. And sometimes the creative investor is the one that's able to buy the deal that nobody else buys because they see a way through the deal that makes sense to them. And that's really, I think, one of the amazing things is that investing in real estate keeps you sharp.
Absolutely. So I think that is that right there. You just mentioned that now when people approach you and they are wanting to become real estate, they're wanting to invest, at this stage of your life, you have so much know-how and experience under your belt that you're able to go through the whole deal, and you're able to work out the numbers and the logistics and kind of reverse engineer everything and see whether there's an opportunity in there for people to invest in. So how does it work? You find you have some deal, and you are putting the deal out there, you are wanting to broker this transaction. How do you decide which deal is best for which client?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, so I'm working with a seller, which is primarily what I do, and I get a listing, I'm going to put it on the market and get the property as much exposure as possible. And then I'm probably, as long as it's priced right and the market is strong, I'm going to get inundated with offers. It's my job as a broker to vet not only the offer, but to vet the purchaser. I look at things like their personal financial statement. I look at things like their schedule of real estate. I want to know what is their net worth. I want to talk to their lender if they're getting financing to make sure that we're going under contract with the right buyer. That's really important. I mean, there are also times when I have clients that say, Dan, I don't want this on the market. I want you to find me a buyer privately. And then, I know, okay, this is a shopping center, and I just sold 2 shopping centers to this client of mine. This is a good fit. It's the right kind of market. It's the right tenant mix. It's the right term, right? It's built around the right time, right cap rate, right price point. Boom, let me make a connection and try to slam a deal off market, which does happen often. So that's why it's really important to have a good broker that that knows you and knows what you're looking for, because a lot of these deals that my clients get, they're getting because I know what they want and I know that they'll perform, so I can get them things that are not necessarily going to see market exposure.
And I think, Dan, a lot of people don't understand this, but these are lifetime relationships, right? Uh,
Yeah.
you've been in real estate for such a long time, and I've been in real estate for such a long time. We understand. Um, it's not just about the commission. It's not just about the money part of it. The high that you get from those connections, there's a high that you get from making certain transactions happen, right? Because
Yeah.
that you were able to, it's like pieces of a puzzle, and it's
Yeah.
like you were able to put the right people the right group of people together to maximize for the highest and best use of a certain transaction.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, I think that it's really like brokers are underrated. I mean, like I just sold the shopping center last week, and I mean, this was a many year project to get the listing, and then once I got the listing, it was 6 to 9 months of optimizing the property with the seller, and then once we got the once we put it back on the market, or on the market, I should say, it's 12 to 14 offers and vetting all those, and then going under contract, visiting the property. I mean, we had a buyer from Hawaii, a seller from Florida, a property in Michigan. And it's just every step of the way, there's so many nuances. And again, that's why experience is so important, because it's only through those hundreds of millions of dollars of transactions that I can know how to handle each nuance, because I've been there before, or I've at least been in a place that's similar enough that I know how to navigate this one.
Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, it is about navigating the water. Every transaction that comes through brings with it so many different, it's a new experience, right? There's just something, there's learning curve. You're constantly learning. And I think it's just, I don't think most people don't understand and value, um, that relationship, because that relationship right there is what is going to end up making sure that the right opportunity comes your way, especially if you're wanting to get involved as an investor in commercial real estate.
Yep, absolutely.
What has been the best experience? What's something that you have taken from this past decade or decade plus that you have spent in this field, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it's always that thrill of, there's a thrill when you get the listing, there's a thrill when you sell the listing. I mean, just different things. I mean, I say in 21, I sold a Wendy's in Detroit set a record for the highest price per square foot for a fast food restaurant in the whole city. Last year, I sold a group of resorts for almost $50 million, set a record for the whole city for the largest, single real estate transaction. Things like that, just like, sorry?
Which city was that in?
That was in Traverse City, Michigan.
Okay.
So it's like, it's things like that, being involved in those types of experiences where you just kind of like, I mean, after all that, and again, that transaction was complicated. It was multiple buildings, multiple units, like, just a lot of moving pieces, staff, all kinds of stuff. And first of all, to go up there and tour the site on a boat and just be part of that, was amazing. And then, to afterwards sit back and say, wow, like I did that. I was part of that. And it's really great. I'll never forget it. And the relationships that I made because of it were absolutely incredible. So, for me, those things are huge. I did create a course called the CRE Pro course, which is a training course, commercial real estate training course. So to have people come up to me afterwards and, explain how the course has helped, shape their life and get them into commercial real estate and help them be successful. It's just, I love giving back. And for me, education has always been one of the ways that I can give back to people. And, to see that benefiting people in a positive manner and benefiting their families, that's awesome. Because I know that this industry benefited me so much, and I wouldn't have what I have if it weren't for it. And my family wouldn't have what they have if it weren't for it. So to be able to help other people get that, for me, is just, that's super meaningful.
Absolutely. And I think, I think that right there, people might not understand it, but there's that high when you touch people's lives. There is that high when you touch people's lives and become that catalyst in changing dynamics, right? And that's just a brilliant. So let me ask you, Dan, when you get a listing, how exactly do you market it?
Good question. So I feel like I get this question a lot from new clients too. So, I mean, first of all, it takes us some time to get it ready for marketing. We have to, by the time we're already pitching for a listing, we've got an offering memorandum put together that tells you pretty much everything you need to know about the property. But at the point that we get the listing, normally we'll weather permitting, get professional drone photography so that we can see the site from above and see the trade area, see the traffic counts, all that stuff. We're going to spruce up our package. We're going to get all of our aerials and graphics, really done, the proper way. And then we have to start teeing up our marketing. So we've got an investor database. It's investors, brokers, real estate investment trusts, family offices, funds, et cetera, of about 300,000 individuals. So we send the offering memorandum teaser out to all 300,000 of them. I put it up on LinkedIn and start promoting it on LinkedIn. And then myself and my team, we start doing our outreach. So, it really depends on the type of property. But like, as an example, let's say it's a Wendy's property. So we'll create a database. If it's a Wendy's property in Texas, we'll create a database of every Wendy's property owner in Texas, and we'll call every single one of them, telling them that there's a Wendy's for sale. We'll then do what's called a rooftop database, where we create a database of all the other commercial properties within, let's say, a 5 or 10 mile radius. We call all of those individuals. Depending on the assignment, we might send out postcards or targeted mailings like that. But essentially, there's a lot of outreach from email blasts and cold calls. And then obviously, we have 40 agents here, so we make sure that they're aware of the property, and each one of those 40 agents has their own book of business. So between those 40 agents, they typically have an interested party or two that wants to look further at the asset, and we just we do that. We don't stop until we get it sold.
Dan, what advice do you have for someone? Again, going back to that person who might have that, 200,000 or 500,000, or they might have $1 million. And there are three very different price points, right? 200, the asset class changes, unless, of course, it's, you're getting involved in a syndicate where, do you do syndicates?
I mean, yes, the answer. I mean, I'm dealing with the listing right now. I have a call right after this with a client that it's not exactly a syndication, but he has a private investment fund that, they raise capital from investors and then go and invest in net lease assets. I sold them this Wendy's property a few years ago, and now I'm marketing it for sale to sell it for them. So yeah, we work with syndications or investment funds all the time. In response to your question of what advice I would have, I'll give you an example. A few years ago, my wife and I decided we wanted to move from that house I mentioned that I bought for 75 grand to Birmingham, nice city that she grew up there. I grew up close by. We both always had aspirations of living there. And we went and we booked a showing at a house we wanted to see. We went and looked at it, and we were in love. Best house ever. We love everything about it. Sign up right here on the dotted line. Everything's great, right? So I said, whoa, hold on. All right. We are not making an offer until we look at 10 houses, because I guarantee you we're going to walk into the next house and we're going to see, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that. That house didn't have this feature. And then we're going to walk into the third house and say, oh my gosh, I didn't think about that, an attached garage, right? And we did that until we found a house that checked off all the boxes. My point is that if you want to purchase something, right, you need to become an expert in what you're purchasing. You become an expert in the market in which you're purchasing it. So the only way to do that is to look at a lot of deals. Do not buy the first deal you see, okay? I can almost guarantee you that will be a mistake. Just like if we would have bought the first house we saw, that would have been a mistake, right? So I would have been calling up the realtor to sell it immediately. But the point is that you need to get your eyes on 10 deals, on 100 deals, on 1,000 deals. I promise you, the more deals you underwrite, the more deals you look at, the more you're going to, it's the same thing. You're going to see one deal has a detached garage, right? One deal doesn't. You're going to see one deal, I don't know, has a finished basement. And I'm using the analogy to houses. But my point is that you're going to catch those nuances. And eventually, like, how do I know what a cap rate is for a 15-year Wendy's today? The only reason I know that is because I'm looking at 15-year Wendy's all day long, every single day. So I know what they're worth. And when one pops out at me and it's at a 6.5 cap, I say, oh, that's a deal, only because I know. So the same thing with you as an investor. When you're investing in something, become an expert by looking at a lot of them, and then the real deal will jump out at you.
And I think, there is an opportunity for everyone. out there. I will, before we conclude, Dan, I will again, especially youngsters, in their 20s, if you are thinking, I mean, on my radio show, I am a big proponent of advocating to parents that, especially in our culture, the grand weddings that happen. And I tell parents that when your kids are in colleges, you know what, help them with down payment, let them
Yeah.
buy the first house on campus. It should be a 3 bedroom, 2 bath, so that they live in the smaller room themselves, rent out the master bedroom, rent out the secondary room, and when they finish their education, let kids rent out the different rooms, make one of them the property manager to manage it, to manage the rents, and help your child become a real estate investor. Help them with the down payment money so that they start building their assets no matter where they go for work. They're building one asset
Yep.
after another. And hopefully, the mindset should be that in 15 years' time, you do have, at least 1.5 million in assets. So you're generating around $15,000 in 15 years' time in passive income, which will buy you the freedom and the ability to be able to go out and do whatever it is that you are passionate about, whether it's being an entrepreneur or it's starting your own company or doing something, creating some kind of a fund, whatever it is that gives you a high that you feel a passion for. So there, I think this is what real estate does for you. And I completely understand, because 19 years, it has not been an easy journey. There have been highs and lows and moments where everything is scattered and your whole world has fallen apart, but you still persevere and you get up and you keep going, because this is such a dynamic field, which gives you that ability to, if you have the courage to dream, to make all your dreams come true.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can tell you, like, to your point, I mean, one of the things I'm passionate about is instilling, lessons in my children that I think will help them live a life of abundance and of wealth. And, my older daughters, my sons are too young at this point. My older daughters, one of them when she turned 12 and the other one, I think when she turned 10, I opened up investment accounts for each of them, their own investment account. I can't touch it. I can only put money into it. And when they turn 18, they get it. So I remember what started when I first opened it for my older daughter. She likes working. She likes, like, I mean, I think she takes after me. She's always, like, we talk. Even when she was about 10 years old, she asked me. She said, I don't understand. Like, if you could work for yourself and have a business, or you could work for somebody else and make them a lot of money, why would you want to work for somebody else and make them money? I said, man, you are for sure my daughter, if there was ever any doubt. So anyway, I like watches. I don't overindulge. I have a couple nice watches, but my daughter, she took up a liking for watches as well. And she really liked this one Michelle watch. So she every summer she makes a camp and charges kids or charges the parents to be in her camp. So that summer she made a camp and she said, I want to buy that watch. So I said to her, I'll make a deal with you. If you hold off from buying that watch and instead you invest that money in your investment account, I'll buy you the watch. Okay. So she took the money. It was about $400, and she put it in her investment account. And I went with her to the mall, and I remember I was so proud of her. Buying her that watch made me so happy. So she bought her the watch. She puts the money in the investment account, and now every chance she gets, she's making a camp. She just made a camp this summer, and she made a lot of money for a little kid. She made a lot of money. So here's what she did. This is amazing. So she took all the money that she made. She immediately gave 10% to charity. I didn't ask her to. And then after the 10% to charity, she put like the additional 70% into her investment account. And she asks me like almost every day to go through and tell her where her stocks are, how they're performing, what her account looks like. And I tell her, I say, you know what? When you're going to be 20 years old and your friends are, not at college, and they're looking for a place, they're going to be trying to rent a house or an apartment, and they're going to be stressing because they're not going to have the money. You're going to be able to have this pot of gold sitting there with a down payment, either for a home or even better, maybe for a duplex. So you can live in one side and your friend who needs a place to rent can pay your mortgage in the other. And that to me is amazing because my kids are going to have something
Yeah.
that the only reason they have it is because I put it together for them and that they had the discipline to invest. But more than that, they've been taught the discipline to go out and make $1,000, give 100 to charity, and take 600 of it and put it away. Don't use it right now. They could be out buying iPads, but they're not. They're investing in their future. I love it. Love it, love it, love it.
Um, that is just so fabulous, right? Because by the time she, like you said, she finishes, she graduates high school, and she's getting ready for college. She's already this young little entrepreneur who is, so. So one thing on that note, the money that you were putting in that investment account for them, what were you investing that money for them? Or
So that was like it's mostly index funds because I tend to believe that index funds outperform individual stocks in general. Some individual stocks as well, but mostly index funds, S&P index funds, Russell, just different total market, iTotal, SPY, things like that.
absolutely. And when I was starting, you and I spoke about the show. I think it's been over 2 years, and then we went
At
into
least,
COVID, and I was going through some life changes and whatnot, and so it's taken some time for me to start this. And I was talking to my own 18-year-old, and I was like, okay, I'm going to call the show "Building Wealth Through Real Estate," and she was like, Mom, what do you want to say with real estate? I mean, there are other aspects to building wealth as well. So just say building wealth. And that right there is another aspect of building wealth.
yeah,
You diversify your portfolio and you're doing different things to build that wealth. So I
right.
think so they're just different ways to doing it. I think the most important thing is that um, you have to get started.
You have to get started, and it's the earlier the better. There's no doubt about it.
Absolutely. Well, Dan, it's been a pleasure. It took a long time, and but hopefully we can do this again. And it's a pleasure having you here. So thank you for being my guest. And I'm just on this journey where it's just like you said. It's about touching lives, and it's about encouraging other people to take that leap of faith and to take that first step and just get started, because once you get started, different doors will start opening for you. And it is about creating passive income so that you don't have to work your whole life unless you choose to. You work
Right.
because you want to. And I think that's what real estate does for you and I. And thank you for being a part of my journey.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Well, everyone, thank you all for being here, and stay safe and stay well. And you're listening to Heart with Simon, Building Wealth. Thank you for being here.